Subscribe to Film Companion for your film fix. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.
If you're practicing nepotism and casting people from within the family, you cannot be a murderer and a killer, right? So we have to have some perspective in this discussion.
The pandemic has made people so hungry for just to watch their favorite, stars on screen. People will, again, like back to square one, but in a way that will go back to screens watching their favorite, hero's son or hero's daughters.
There is no intent to take the discussion forward, because if you are saying that somebody felt so traumatized and the industry was so toxic for them that they ended up having psychological problems and then felt bullied or desperate, and you repeat the same circle of abuse for another person, are you waiting for another tragedy? And if that occurs, will you be held accountable?
Richa, Kabir, Shraddha, welcome to Chat Masala. Such a pleasure to have you all with us. It's been a tough few months for the film industry, and Baradwaj and I thought we would just bring together a group of people to talk about, what we can do to speak constructively. Richa, I want to start with you. I really liked the blog that you wrote, and it was very expansive. It was it was very heartfelt, and one of the lines that stayed with me was when you said that privileged coupled with ignorance, apathy, and incompetence is not a good look. That's definitely not a good look. And I wanted to ask you, how did we get to this place? Is one of the bigger issues that actors just have kind of an outsized power in this ecosystem?
I really don't know. I mean, I just feel like such a fringe element in this industry that I never feel that I could speak on behalf of someone, but the maximum that I could do is speak on behalf of people like myself. I definitely think in an industry like this, it has to be the director. The film is the director's baby. We have to start valuing our writers and directors more. And I say that as an actor. And I really think the day we start doing that, it's become better. But it should just be an equal set. I mean, when you speak to crew and cast also, they appreciate directors that make it inclusive, discuss things, and I think that's very, very crucial.
Shraddha, with your experience in the southern industries, what has been your take? Because the talk has been concentrated so much about Bollywood, 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 but a fair amount of what's being discussed filters down south as well. And
Right.
there's not much being written about it, or not many people are speaking about it. So what is your take on that?
I've always believed that I get outsider credit. I don't know. I feel like the southern industry it's so small and so closed. Sometimes I feel like there's like 1 foot outside, 1 foot inside, and that kind of person sitting on the fence. But it's not just in Bollywood. I think it's rampant in the south as well. It's of course there's film families, there's political families, and I feel like it's just, from what I've understood, it's just that like the audiences just want to see like lineage, successor after successor on screen. They just, I don't know what it is. It's nostalgia, or it is just some sort of special connection.
It could be fast. Sorry.
No, yeah, that's how it's encouraged in the first place, and it's like a never-ending circle. And
Do I detect a bit of maybe frustration in there? Is it coming from a place of, man, what do I do with this problem?
I do. Sometimes there's like wonderful projects that are being cast for, and I have no idea how the casting takes place, where it's happening. It's far different from Bombay, right? There's small groups within the industry, and by the time you find out that someone's casting, it's over. Either you're with a manager who's like like, who's part of that, like those inside groups. My manager is like an educated lady, and she represents me so well. She understands me so well. She's, she's far, she's a different kind. She's not part of the industry as such. So you don't know what's happening. And of course there's frustration. I just wish it were more open. I just wish it was, like I say, like more transparent. And yeah, you can call me frustrated.
No. I wasn't calling you frustrated. But one of the things that just the last thing that I was, you kind of said that the Tamil and the Telugu, or rather the southern industries are smaller, but actually the Tamil and the Telugu industry is a big commercial industry. So when you said small, you meant in terms of in relation to Bollywood, or how?
In relation to Bollywood, of course. Okay. Yeah.
Kabir, your career has run the gamut from, making documentaries to making these 300 crore blockbusters. So what is your perspective on where are the fault lines, and what can we fix now that the pandemic has thrown everything up into the air? How do we fix it?
So my take on this is, Anupama, I like to see it slightly as in a larger vision. The fault lines are the same fault lines that run through our society. And when anybody asks me this about Bollywood, that's one thing I always tell them is, listen, we are part of our society. We are always going to reflect the fault lines that run in our society. We are a feudal country. Nepotism is one of the evils in our blood. We will always have nepotism in our blood. And that is something that we all have to fight against at a much larger level. We cannot look at it in the context of Bollywood. Because again, like when the Me Too movement happened and we were looking at it in the context of Bollywood, I said, of course, Bollywood will have it because our society has it. If we live in a society which has misogyny, which is patriarchal, so will Bollywood be that, because there are people from our society over there. And the other thing I have a problem is, and I keep seeing these debates where we keep talking about Bollywood like Bollywood's a club, in Juhu, where you open the door and you can say, hey, Bollywood, and then people say, hi, yes, me. Bollywood is made up of so many different people. I'm not on the same ideological page as half of Bollywood. I cannot speak for them. They cannot speak for me. So ultimately, Bollywood is made of so many different ideologies and perspectives. We have to look at this problem at a larger level. And yes, coming specifically to Bollywood, of course, there's nepotism. Of course, it's a huge fault line. But I think everything has to be looked at with a certain sense of proportion. I think what is happening right now, if you're practicing nepotism and casting people from within the family, you cannot be a murderer and a killer, right? So we have to have some perspective in this discussion, and definitely the fault lines are there. But at the same time, we should not negate the fact that outsiders are welcome in this industry. There are lots of outsiders who do come in, are welcomed, and make a good career out of it. Richa is a classic example. I am a complete outsider. I'm a documentary filmmaker from Delhi who came in. My father was a professor. I had no links with the industry. I've come in. I've enjoyed my 15 years in this industry. I've had an enriched experience in terms of my films, in terms of the love and recognition I've got. Financially, I've been really paid well in this industry. So I think we have to look at it as a balanced argument. Right now, I think it's too shrill. The discussion.
See, today there's all this talk about how the big production houses keep going after the same people from the same lineage and don't look outside. But in a way, even when you look at 80s parallel cinema, there was Nasir, Smita, Shabana, Om, and they were this monolithic quartet, fantastically talented, no doubt about that, and kind of a thing. But almost everybody was after these four. And
if I may, if you read Nasir Saab's memoirs or anything, he'll talk about the fact that these were actors that were hired when the filmmaker had to really tell a story on zero budgets, and when they had the money to afford bigger stars. So see, this is such a complicated problem. People like me who are on the fringe, who work in like both kind of films, yeah, we feel that way. When you have to give us 1 lakh, then you'll call us, and then you'll be like, glory, prestige, ek muthi anaj. And for the rest of the time, it's like, when you have the budgets, you'll go for the person who's going to take away a chunk of your production fee just as their own personal fee. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous to expect any simple solution to an industry as creative, as diverse. Now, Chaitanya Tamhane and Vivek Gombar's film, it's not Bollywood or what we call Bollywood. It's not. Is it less prestigious? No. Should we be making more noise about that achievement? Yes. I'm in it for that. I am going to support people who make who push the envelope and talk about things, and I think so does a lot of people do that in their own way.
Tell me this, in a film industry that's a private enterprise, right?
Hmm.
Everywhere across the country, how can you force anyone to cast anyone? You can't say that don't look at lineage, don't look at this film family. How do you kind of ask for a level playing ground when everyone's using their own money and are perfectly free to cast whoever they think is right for the project, right? How do you then kind of say, but we also want a level playing field for outsiders?
No, but there can't be any level playing field because when a star kid's child hits puberty, they already have like 20 million followers on Instagram. These are not followers that have come from the film industry. They've come from Janta who are curious to see what so and so's zygote has eventually turned out like. They're interested in their lives, and there's nothing you can do about that. I just feel like nahi, I want to get over this and discuss some other issues that need to be discussed, I feel.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Because,
but sorry, no, I was just taking off from what Richa was saying. She's absolutely right. Right? In that sense, we are all complicit. The fact is that Taimur Ali Khan is being photographed from the age of like 0.
zero.
Yeah, obviously there is going to be interest. The whole, I mean, now if some producer later thinks, oh, Taimur is already a star, let me put my money on him and make a film with him. How do you blame that producer? I mean, the media is writing about him. The journalists are tripping over themselves to write about Taimur Ali Khan. The photographers are tripping over themselves to get photographs of Taimur Ali Khan. Why will producers not be tripping over themselves? And it's something that we've all created, right? So I think that's why I say it is a larger reflection of our society, and we need to address this at a larger level. Only then will it get sorted out in our industry, and we need to have that. I'm not saying you're absolutely right, and again, nepotism, or I won't say nepotism, but people with a certain lineage or coming from a certain family. It's not that they're all bad actors. Some of our finest actors are from certain families, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not that they will always be bad. But yes, I do feel there should be some democracy in the industry where at the level of entry, it feels struggle really is at the entry level. After that, it does, in a certain sense, become a level playing field according to, at least, so I'm speaking from a director's point of view. I might not have that much experience about the struggle of an actor, but I can say from a director's point of view that I think the struggle is up to your acceptance of your first script. Once your first script has come in and you've got that film, as a director, I think it becomes a level playing field. I don't think a director with a lineage will get better options than me if I'm able to deliver the goods in my first film.
Yeah.
In actors, I think from whatever we've seen, we do see that they get many more chances than a newcomer. A newcomer is written off much faster than somebody who comes from a family.
Okay, nepotism also means to benefit from one's connections. So if your first boyfriend has gotten your movie, it doesn't matter that you don't have a famous last name. That is still you getting work basis nepotism. And the second thing is that if we have seen over time that there is some kind of it just talent works as an equalizer in some sense, that you will have people who are from illustrious families who will not have their careers take off in the way that a young new hotshot boy from a smaller Indore or Bilaspur will. It entirely depends on the projects you're choosing, what kind of projects are working at that time, how you use your success. And I think the struggle is essentially is in the fact that people like us don't have, like my mom, dad, they don't know zilch about, like, they want to look at cameras up close, like, I don't know, Neanderthals looked at civilization. I mean, so it's a very different the fact that we don't have a support system in terms of advisors in this whole machineries, I think. I
Yeah.
agree with Kabir there. Once you are at that entry level, once you have your first break and all, you start to learn those lessons. It takes you a bit longer. I was talking to another friend of mine who said 10 साल तो समझने में लग जाते हैं कि क्या हो रहा है. You know, so and that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Shraddha, you spoke about the audience earlier, because how much of very little of this conversation so far has been not this conversation, but the conversation around all this has centered on the complicity of the how much the audience has been complicit in all this. Because like Kabir was saying, and like you were saying yourself, there have been many star children pushed on the audience, and they've kicked them out, and they've said, we don't want to see your films. There have been an equal number of people from outside that have come from outside that they've accepted, and at the same time, when it comes to heroines, especially down south, there is at least in the big commercial movies, there is the audiences or the producers seem to think that the audiences prefer a certain ultra white-skinned North Indian type of heroine, and who look like she belongs in the milieu at all. So everybody around her looks very distinctly off the milieu. This one person standing out, and yet that's become some kind of a trend. So how much of this do you think the audience is to be, let's not use the word blamed, but considered for?
I don't get it. I mean, there are some male actors who look like an average person on the road, and there is that sense of connection. You feel like, okay, I could be this person. And so when there's male heroes who look a certain way, the audience, they applaud, they cheer. Whereas the South is infamous for, like you said, importing heroines from outside. In fact, I was once blamed. Someone wrote about me saying, she's from Karnataka. Why is she doing Tamil films? Could you not find a Tamil heroine? I mean, there's that much of regionalism also. And I said, hey, I work hard. I learn the language, and I think I can, pass off as a Tamilian. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like, again, so this is just patriarchy at its finest. They want a man to look the way he does because it gives them the pleasure of thinking, you know what, if that guy can make it, I can make it too. But the heroines just have to look a certain way, and it just refuses to go away. I feel like for the longest time, I mean, when I was an aspiring actor, I would always think that I couldn't make it in the film industry because I didn't look a certain way. And then, of course, like shattered all those myths and everything, me and like a bunch of other actresses. But so I guess it's just this, when they say new wave, like it's a new thing to say, new wave. So it's also the new wave of actors and actresses who are dispelling all these sort of notions. And yeah, we're just like, yeah, the new wave.
But do you think this is imposed upon, like let's say, who chooses these North Indian actresses? Is it the audience that says we want it, or is it the producer, or is it the actor? Or I mean, how? Because we're talking about how to like even the playing field. Now, if this were to be fixed, who would you go after?
I think it's all three. That hiring, casting a certain heroine from somewhere who looks a certain way gets you those hits, gets you, I mean, she's willing to dance, she looks lovely as hell, you can't take your eyes off her. So the producers know that they'll get their bang for the buck. The audiences, they want to, I don't know, they fantasize seeing such women on screen because they possibly can't get such women, maybe. And the heroes too, of course, they have a role in suggesting or pushing for a certain actor or actress. This is a known fact. I guess you can, everyone in equal parts has a role to play.
Kabir, let me ask you this. Since now for the last 5 months we haven't had a box office, and we may not have for maybe a couple more months, and who knows what it'll look like finally when we do get back into theaters, which I cannot wait for. I long to see films on the big screen again. But tell me, will the lack of a box office, do you think it'll have any far-sighted impact on the kind of films that get greenlit? Will we see greater experimentation? Will actually people who come without lineage have the opportunity to kind of not be tested by that first Friday opening, not be tested by, weekend kitna tha?
I don't think there's going to be much of a change, Anupama, because of the simple reason it's not just the theaters that have shut down. The whole industry has shut down. So it's not like, the theaters have shut down and the industry isn't working and therefore being getting to do different things because they cannot get those films onto the screens. So what's going to happen is the industry is pretty much going to start working, and the theater is going to open up within, say, a month of that. And I have a feeling that, firstly, I think we all have really short memories. All this will be behind us, and we'll quickly go back to square one. I don't think there'll be too many changes. Yes, I think one change that has happened is that there has been in a certain sense, consolidation of the OTT platforms. The OTT platforms are now established as an alternative platform for a large number of people who probably were not even looking at it before the pandemic, right? So that's definitely become a permanent fixture, that, okay, there is a platform where you can watch films, and what might happen in that case is like what's happening in the West, that some of the sort of small to medium budget dramas might get, pushed more to OTTs, and theaters might become more about spectacle, exactly the way like what's happening in Hollywood, right? The 200 million Wonder Womans and Amazons and all that is happening there. The films with smaller budgets but good drama, good actors are going more to the the OTT platforms and HBOs. So that definitely will happen. But I'm not looking at this pandemic, even if it stretches out for another 5, 6, 7 months, to really lead to some huge changes in the way our industry operates. I pretty much think that we'll be back to square one before you know it.
That's such
In fact, I think, sorry.
Yeah, please, Shraddha, go ahead.
In fact, I think it will just, like, the pandemic has made people so hungry for just to watch their favorite, stars on screen. People will, again, like, back to square one, like Kabir said, but in a way that they'll go back to screens watching their favorite, hero's son or hero's daughter. So,
yeah, because
in that
also
way,
remember, Anupama, because there'll be lesser money, right? After this pandemic, everybody's taking a financial beating. So I have a feeling that limited money will chase what they feel are the safer bets. So that money will start going towards what they feel are safer films, bigger stars, bigger directors. So yeah, I could see your smile sort of diminishing, Anupama, but unfortunately, I don't think will lead to some.
So it's gonna be one step forward, 2 steps back.
Or status quo, yeah.
Just to get I'd like all three of you to weigh in on this. So in a way, are you saying that, one of the things that led Anupama to, or rather the way we discussed this question was, so much has been said about this topic, but now it appears as if there's just a small section of people talking about this topic, but the real audiences out there, the masses, really don't give a shit. Is that in a way right?
You're talking about the topic of nepotism and the whole
inside or outside, all this stuff happening. Yeah,
I don't know.
I really feel like if people have half a brain, they will focus on better things more that affect their own livelihoods much more. Like the fact that, I don't know, 12,000 people die of TB every month, that we don't have hospital beds, that we don't have roads full of without potholes, that our average pollution AQI is so high that when ministers themselves get sick, they go to private hospitals. What does that say about government hospitals? That government schools are forcing kids to study on tablets. And there's a whole lot of other things that can be discussed. So, if you want to, fall for the bluff and bluster, you can, but for how long can you do that? I understand there is a problem within the film industry, and I think that there will be a correction, because I do feel like the OTT stuff will, equalize a lot of things, because I don't want to watch somebody who's not talented, even if they have a famous last name, because I'm in the comfort of my own house. I will watch what engages me. But I really think that we spend a disproportionate amount of time discussing film stars, and in general, and the media is very, very guilty of using famous names just to garner TRPs. What's happening now is nauseating. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic.
Yeah, really, I absolutely agree with Richa. See, what is happening is also, I think the audience if it's interested and if it's watching. It's also watching it because the news channels are presenting it like a soap opera. It's not really a serious discussion. I mean, if we see the rubbish that's happening on a news channel, that's not really a true discussion or a constructive discussion about how to get rid of this industry of one of its ills. It's not. It's only for getting TRPs. It's being played out like a full masala soap opera, right? And every time there's a new twist and turn, you can see the glee on the faces of the presenters. They just got another 7 days programming sorted out, right? They don't want to look at the floods. They don't want to look at the pandemic. They don't want to look at the Chinese aggression. This is the burning issue in our country right now. Whether Bollywood will be rid of its evil of nepotism, will the movie, what do they call it, movie mafia gang be disbanded or whatever the hell that's happening. So I think people are watching only because it's being shown as what our news channels have been degenerated into, is low cost reality entertainment channels, and that's what people are watching. I don't think people are watching it because they generally have a big issue with the way Bollywood is being run and whether they're genuinely like worried about how to clean up Bollywood. So I don't
Yeah,
think
people are
at
so
all.
concerned about democracy in Bollywood that they've forgotten about democracy altogether. Anyways.
That's a,
I feel that the audience is only talking about nepotism now because of the tragedy that happened, and it's so sensational right now. But I think the only people who really care about nepotism and talk about it so much are the people who are affected. I mean, are
Exactly.
the ones who suffer the ill fate of it. But yeah, that's where it ends really. It's great for discussion.
there's one like I've been hearing one argument that goes, see, unlike other industries where people enter to make a living, as in like because of basic roti kapda makan, where it's a guarantee thing, like you become a whatever. The film industry is something that people enter knowing that it's a it's an unsure industry, for lack of a better word. Like some of you may make it, some of you may not make it. A lot of the number of people who make it compared to the number of people who don't, is that it's a very, very disproportionate thing. So you know why are you entering knowing that this is going to be like this, whereas another section is saying, but it is to ease the path for those people that are entering the film industry and entering the arts, that all this should be done. So there is no real focus on what the argument is, apart from the fact that a real tragedy has happened and nobody knows how to take the discussion forward. Would you agree with that?
There is no intent to take the discussion forward, because if you are saying that somebody felt so traumatized and the industry was so toxic for them that they ended up having psychological problems and then felt bullied or desperate, and you repeat the same circle of abuse for another person, are you waiting for another tragedy? And if that occurs, will you be held accountable? It's absolutely appalling what is going on, and I think everybody in their heart of hearts knows, and they still continue. There are a million things that can be done. Like, you can make sure that, I saw an Instagram story of this lady. She's a very popular face on television, who was forced to sell handmade Rakhis, because in TV, when you get your money, is between 60 to 90 days. That's the cycle of payment. So a lot of people are facing those issues, especially those who work in the television industry. Run a regular Google search with the word actor and suicide, and you will see how many happen every month. And I'm in a way, I hope that the only learning from this tragedy can be that we can all just hope to be better as people and purify our hearts of any kind of envy or settling personal scores, because that will not lead to anything. It'll just create another fresh cycle that will find its culmination somehow, somewhere, and that is not the answer. I feel like we'll all have to take a lot of matters in our own hands in terms of solidarity, being there for one another, supporting one another, standing up for one another. When you say lone voices, there are lone voices who are always calling for like introspection, or saying like, so many people, I wrote about this hypocrisy in my blog also. Dude, if you're so sorry, pay the rest of your technicians. I have seen people not be able to get their sisters married if they've come from a pind in Punjab, because some really big bade darshan wala producer has not cleared their dues amounting to lakhs. And there are so many stories like this. Why don't stuntmen have amazing life insurance or body insurance? So many people die, they lose, like they have injuries that debilitate them from working. These are the real things that need to be spoken about. Even when I go to my dentist, there is a publication there which is like a newsletter of dentists, where all dentists write in and say this is a new innovation in technology. We should have a newsletter among ourselves and say, not just trade magazines which are talking about these many screens, this is the business, but just a solidarity network where somebody can say, hey man, I need dialysis and I don't have money. We don't. I hate stories like Mr. Hungal, and I just feel like that's a real tragedy right there. People give a part of themselves when they make a film, and it's a very different kind of bargain that you end up entering without fully knowing ramifications. A film you may do at 20 could make you be labeled for the rest of your life. But everybody needs some kind of a safety net, first in terms of love, and then in terms of other things like logistics, minimum pay, and insurance. This is really, it's not happening, but it's, I'm just putting it out there, because it's a dream. One day it will happen.
Lovely.
Let me ask you, as you're a director, but you're also a producer, right? Do you think that the Producers Guild or a body like that sort of can set standards for best practices? Is there conversation among the powers that be within the industry to actually have something constructive come out of this?
I don't think that conversation is happening in any of those bodies that you mentioned. I don't think the Producers Guild at any level have ever addressed the issue of nepotism or how to make this place more equitable for newcomers or what. Firstly, I don't like this term outsiders because
Right.
I don't know who's an outsider. Is Shah Rukh Khan an outsider or insider? I mean, according to the description that's going on now, he's an outsider, right? Because he didn't come from a famous family. But who can be more inside Bollywood than Shah Rukh Khan? So that's not happening. But I think, one element of this discussion that keeps getting ignored, and that should happen in this, very negative debate that's happening, a witch hunt actually that's happening, is that you need to also then start celebrating the outsiders. Because see, I'm saying, like, just picking up from one of the questions earlier, that if you're doing it for the generations or the people or the youngsters who will be joining this industry, right now, imagine a young boy in Delhi or Meerut who wants to come and become a director. He's maybe 22 years old, just graduated. His parents are watching this and saying, our boy's not going to that mafia or that gangland because he's going to be eaten up by the insiders and he's going to, that's not the way. This is a great industry with all its faults, with all its ills and all its things. It gives you a very rich experience of life. You come here to tell stories. I'm again speaking from the point of view of director. It enables you to do that. I think there is a certain acceptance of outsiders, definitely for directors. Yes, the struggle is that it took me a year and a half to get my script to Aditya Chopra. Maybe if somebody was from a family friend, that script would have reached in 1 week. But that's where the struggle ends. Once he reads the script, that's where it becomes a level playing field.
It is entirely possible to celebrate the work of outsiders and people you admire without shaming anybody or running anybody down. It's possible. It can be done and it must be done.
These are not necessarily oppositions.
Yeah,
Right.
they're not. There are no absolutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hope that some good comes out of this. It's been such a difficult time for everybody. It's been so ugly. It's been so graceless and so sad. And I really hope that at the end of it, like Kabir, you said, we were all complicit in some way, and I completely agree with that. We have all contributed, and we can all do better. And I really hope that we all get a chance, maybe if it's not at a sort of macro level conversation, at least within ourselves, we all find a way. As Richa, you said in your blog, look into the mirror, before you go after anyone else, look into the damn mirror and see how did you do.
Thanks to OTT, I think it's a sign of things to come, and it's I have acted with people who have come from, you know, from absolutely nowhere, and in some very in some industries in the South, which are very, very, very political and very sort of dominated by film families. Thanks to OTT, you know, he's deserving all the recognition he deserves. He's receiving all the recognition he deserves, and so I feel like I think because it's an independent platform, and there's a lot of freedom to experiment and to just be yourself, and nobody really knows what your last name is. I feel like it's great, and I'm glad for it. I just feel like I just wish the Southern industry especially were more open in terms of just casting. I feel like the whole concept of casting director does not really exist in the South. There are some independent ones nowadays, some young ones, but I just wish it were more transparent and open, and that's my one complaint forever. But yeah, it's a great industry to be a part of. I mean, if I look at myself, and I feel like if I've come somewhere, come this far, if I can inspire one other person to think that, okay, you know what, she comes from nowhere, she's just an army officer's kid, and she's come this far. Hey, you know what, I think I can do it too. I feel if one person can follow suit, I think we'll just grow. Like I can be the Pied Piper, me and many other people, and I think it would be amazing.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I love that note of optimism. You know, hum honge kamyab.
Of course, when we see things for what they are and how awful they look at present, I also feel like we forget that there is a natural rhythm in life, in the universe. And I feel like 2020 has been a rhythm, has been a like a disruptor for all of humanity. And मैं तो शर्त लगा सकती हूँ. I feel like there will be really nice, amazing change after this.
Indeed. Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
Fabulous note to end this on. Thank you, Richa. Thanks, Chadha, and thanks, Kabir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kabir. Thanks, Shraddha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. If you like this video,
please subscribe to
Film Companion.